Now that Donald Trump has signed the coronavirus spending and relief bill, Democrats are voting on, well, they already have voted in the House to approve $2,000 direct checks to Americans. This is what Trump demanded. And Democrats have delivered. They voted in the House today, and they have agreed that Americans absolutely do need $2,000 direct checks. Now, there were some blue dog Democrats who voted the wrong way. I'll get to them in just a second. But I do want to remind you all that in a video posted to Twitter last week, Trump called on Congress to increase the ridiculously low $600 stimulus checks to $2,000 and outlined a list of provisions in the overall package of legislation that he described as wasteful spending and much more. He did not mention that the $600 stimulus check came from his Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin. But nonetheless, he called for more direct aid to Americans. And Nancy Pelosi took him up on that offer. The House voted in favor of that today. Now the bill goes to the Senate, where Mitch McConnell needs to bring it to the Senate floor for a vote. Now, remember, Mitch McConnell is not in favor of providing relief to Americans. He wasn't even in favor of $600 direct checks to Americans. However, Kelly Lefler and David Perdue, the two incumbent senators in Georgia, are facing a runoff race, and this could certainly hurt them if they don't vote the right way to provide relief to their own constituents. So we'll see how this plays out. It's unlikely to pass in the Senate, but politically speaking, this is a bad move for Senate GOP, a pretty good move for House Democrats.
Yeah, so let me give the kind of the chronology of how this went down on the Democratic side, then I'll turn back to Trump. So when Trump said, let's do $2,000 checks, Pelosi sensed a political win. So she jumped in and said, okay, deal, let's do $2,000 checks. Everybody cheered. Everybody called her a master legislator. So she was super psyched about it. And then people were like, okay, so let's see what the Senate does. And she's like, oh, no, I was just kidding. We're going to do this. We need unanimous consent. Well, you'd never get unanimous consent from Republicans. And Kevin McCarthy last Thursday did not agree, and he blocked it. And so then progressives put a lot of pressure. Wait, are you just messing around with us? Or did you actually want to pass this bill? And now that is all fact. My experience tells me, and this is the part where I'm going to tell you something that is not fact, but my guess as to what happened next, that Pelosi then kind of sensed that the Republicans were going to vote no. If they were going to vote yes, my guess is that she would have left it alone and just asked for the unanimous consent and be done with it, because she doesn't actually want it. And so now, if you don't believe me, that's okay. No problem. You just go, Pelosi's awesome. She's a master strategist. You got it. Okay. But I'm telling you, based on all the experience I have of following Pelosi, Democratic leadership, Republican leadership, it appears to me that Pelosi put her finger in the wind and was like, oh, no, the Republicans are actually going to block it. Great. Then we could pretend to be in favor of it. Let's do a real vote. Now, the real vote still needed 2/3 to pass the House. And then they said, well, if that doesn't work, then we'll go to just a straight majority. So that's good. That's what we wanted. So, look, you could put my skepticism aside, and I'm happy to give credit where credit is due. She got the job done, and it passes the House, right? My guess is she did that because she knows it's not going to pass the Republican Senate, so she gets the political win without actually having to fork over the money, which would be great for Americans, but not great for her donors. So, but at the end of the day, no matter how you slice it, well played for Pelosi, okay? Now you turn to Trump. Well, you know, when Trump wants something, he knows how to apply political pressure. Mean tweets, I'm going to get somebody to primary you, you're a disgrace, you're this, you're that, etc. So is he going to do that when the Senate Republicans don't want the $2,000 checks? Well, we're going to find out, right? My guess is no. And if he does, maybe enough of them buckle and it passes, and that would be amazing. And then I would actually give credit to Donald Trump. I think he came into this negotiations way too late. I think he bluffed in a way that made no sense. But if he bullies the Republicans enough to get the checks, then I'm happy to give him credit, because we want Americans to get those checks. But my guess is, and you'll get to find out now with your own eyes here, that he'll go, yeah, it'd be great if you guys did that. And then Mitch McConnell and everybody else will ignore it. The Senate Republicans will vote it down. You won't get the money, and Trump won't do a damn thing about it. He doesn't even know his own mind. This same bill, the overall COVID relief bill, he called a disgrace. and then turned around and signed it exactly as it is, the bill that he called a disgrace, and then said, well, you're welcome because I saved you from a Great Depression. What do you mean? The bill, it's the same exact bill. You cannot change the bill. You can either just sign it or veto it. He signed it. So was the bill a disgrace, or did it save us from the Great Depression? He has no idea. All he wants is credit without ever thinking through any strategy.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of his foreign policy as well. I mean, he starts off with escalating tensions with North Korea. Kim Jong-un, talks about how his button is bigger than, Kim Jong-un's button. And then later takes a more diplomatic approach and, de-escalates the tensions and then gives himself a pat on the back for de-escalating tensions after he had already escalated them, right? And then he got no concessions from North Korea and still was self-congratulatory. So I think that there's absolutely no reason to believe that he's going to handle this situation any differently. Like, he's shameless. He doesn't care, and he governs in this incredibly chaotic, unpredictable way. But now that this bill is in Mitch McConnell's court, the question is, what is he going to do? We know what he's likely to do, which is ignore this, refuse to bring it to the floor for a vote. I mean, he just won his reelection, so I don't think that he's worried about any type of political ramifications. However, for himself. However, there could be political ramifications for Kelly Lefler and David Perdue, who are running for reelection in Georgia's, Senate seats. And so they released a statement after Trump had put out that Twitter video demanding more in direct checks to Americans. And they were intentionally vague. As Reuters reports, they said, thanks to President Trump's leadership, COVID relief is again on its way to millions of Georgia families and businesses who need it most. They said in a joint statement that echoed Trump in criticizing the Democrats for prioritizing wasteful, irresponsible spending over the welfare of the American people. But the wasteful spending is exactly what Kelly Lefler and David Perdue are in favor of, right? They don't want to provide the direct checks to Americans, and they've wanted to kind of hide from that fact so it doesn't actually hurt them in their chances of getting reelected. Now, with this news and the unlikely, the fact that it's unlikely to pass in the Senate, it probably will hurt them. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. One other thing, Cenk, that I wanted to mention is, even though it passed in the House, I think it's worth talking about some of the Blue Dog Democrats who voted against $2,000 direct checks to Americans. One of them is Representative Schrader from Oregon. He voted against it, and he argued that he felt uncomfortable sending these relief checks to people who are earning six figures. And he's intentionally lying about that because the way the legislation is written indicates that this money will be means tested. Once you hit $75,000 for your income in 2019, it starts to taper off, right? The amount of money that you get. Once you hit above $99,000 a year in take-home pay, you don't qualify for any government aid, according to this legislation. So he's intentionally lying to the American people in regard to why he voted against this relief that Americans so desperately need right now.
So classic corporate Democrat lie. It's actually a lie on multiple fronts. So first of all, it misrepresents what's in the bill. Second of all, 54% of his district, David Sirota pointed this out, would get this the check because they make under 75. They'd get the full check because they make under $75,000. There's another percentage that would get a partial check. So it would actually help his voters. So corporate Democrats always say, "There's nothing I could do, man. I have to do exactly what the Republicans do." But wait a minute. In this case, 44 Republicans voted for it in the House because Trump told them to. So if 44 Republicans can vote for it, you can vote for it. I know you want to be a Republican, although you're pretending to be a Democrat, but a lot of Republicans did vote for it. Second of all, your district would need it and would love it. Third of all, you completely lied about the bill because you're out of all reasons to vote against it. By the way, if you're wondering, why the hell does this guy who calls himself a Democrat vote against this? Because he's in the group of corporate Democrats that say all of the money should go to my donors and none of it should go to you guys. They call that fiscal austerity. There's never any austerity for corporations. Oh, they're job creators, job creators. We need them so bad, right? But how about the guys actually who are trying to get the jobs and stuff? Nah, who cares? No, hey, we're running out of money. We need fiscal discipline, austerity, right? So they're, in a sense, guys like him are worse than Republicans because they're Republicans who are posing as Democrats to help the worst part of the Republican agenda. So now, look, that leads us back to the Republican Party and where they stand now. 130 of them did vote against this. It needed 2/3 to pass, as we told you earlier, and it got 2/3 because enough Republicans defected because of Trump to get them past the 2/3 in the House. Now, when they go to the Senate, if Trump applies pressure, they actually could get enough Republicans to flip to actually pass this thing. And you guys could actually get $2,000 checks. And that's why I think it'll be interesting to see. My guess is, since it's not actually directly about him, Trump will not follow through. He will not apply any pressure. And the Senate Republicans will vote it down because Trump didn't put any pressure on him. And it'll be definitively because the Republican Party, corporate Democrats, and Donald Trump let you down. Everybody else was ready to send you the $2,000 checks, and the people who fought the hardest for it are progressives. So understand how this game is played. And so anytime that, by the way, anyone in mainstream media tells you guys like Schrader are on our side, remember, they actually do not vote with us. They vote against us. Hence, they are definitely not on our side, no matter what they call themselves.